when it comes to these business credit cards, yes, there's a million of them out here, but finding something with 0% interest, it's like a layaway to me. You think about, I'm not paying any like interest on it. So when I get something like an $8,000 Airbnb, that gives me time. So as an entrepreneur, look for those 0% interest credit cards. People always think about business loans, but you're paying interest back right away on the loan. If I don't do anything with that, I'm still making that payment. But on a credit card, if I had to take my time, I didn't use it the first month or so, I have no payment. Like there's no harm. But even with the 0% interest, I've got the 12 months to pay it back. Like you said, we spent $8,000, made $60 back, paid it down. They doubled the line, doubled the limit, and then we went back and got another credit card to get, so we got a second Airbnb as well. We've even used it like the stock market. We leverage that. So now we use it for like ad spend, mentorships, anything that we can get on that 0% interest, we're doing it because it gives us that time and that flexibility of paying it back without feeling like we're being, penalized or taxed right after that.
Imagine making the next big investment in your business without worrying about how you'll secure the capital to do it. Every day you're putting in the work. You clock in at your job, you stay up late to work on your business, you handle your family responsibilities, but hard work isn't enough to create financial freedom. Here's why so many entrepreneurs still feel stuck. Business credit approvals keep slipping through your fingers. The advice that you've been given doesn't match the results. And you've invested in yourself, but without having the right structure, it hasn't paid off. It's not that you're not capable, it's just that the path that you've been given is broken. That's why I created the Fast Track to Capital. It's a proven framework that entrepreneurs are using to boost their credit so that lenders can trust them, structure their business so that banks see them as credible, and access $50,000 to $100,000 in business credit so they can finally act on opportunities. This isn't about working harder. It's about applying the same structure that wealthy entrepreneurs have been using for years. So if you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and actually move forward, click the link above or below this video to secure your spot in the free masterclass, and I'll see you on the other side of success.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Marvin Francois Show, your number one source for all things business, finance, and investing. And today is a very special day because our guests today are entrepreneurs, mentors, educators, public speakers, personal credit specialists, and business credit experts extraordinaire. They're the founders of Next Level Legacy, a movement that's helped clients secure over $2 million in funding while teaching everyday people how to turn liabilities into leverage, funding into freedom, and credit into a cash flow machine. From high school sweethearts to multi-six-figure earners, this married couple has lived through it all. From incarceration and life-threatening health scares to building a brand that's impacted thousands nationwide, they're proof that when a plan and purpose come together, profits and passive income are all but inevitable. And whether they're providing free game on how to build credit, structure a business and extra $100K in funding, or hosting digital challenges that give you the exact frameworks to turn those resources into a six-figure business, their mission remains the same: to give viewers like you the blueprint to financial freedom that'll take you from your current situation to your dream destination in a matter of days and not decades. And today, they're here to do more of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, from Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm here with the one, the only, Mr. and Mrs. Ty and Kesha Barnett. What's going on, family? How are y'all?
What's up, family?
Yeah,
okay.
That was a good one, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Like about us. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
absolutely. How are y'all? How you feeling, man? How's everything going?
Everything good.
Good.
Enjoying the city.
Good, good. I mean, yes, yeah. We talked a little bit about it afterwards. Obviously, you guys being from Carolina, New York was a little bit of a culture shock, if you were. But I mean, listen, we're happy to have y'all.
Yes, happy to be here.
Yeah, of course. And it's going to be a very jam-packed conversation. Obviously, I'm familiar with you guys, but there may be some people watching who aren't. So let's take a second to get them familiar. Who exactly are Ty and Kesha Barnett?
Yeah, we Ty and Kesha Barnett, of course. We've been together for about 23 years since high school. We met when we were about 16, 17 years old, and it's been on ever since, From that, we grew up in the same city, Rock Hill, South Carolina, a little small city in South Carolina, known for mostly, football players and things like that.
Yeah.
But we met different sides of town, met in high school. Of course, me, I grew up with my mom and my grandmother, and so I naturally saw them working all the time. So I knew that I had to work, so I went and got my first job at 15, just so I could get my own shoes and getting things like that. Wanting to live that American dream, graduate from high school, go to college, and but in between that, I met Ty, and just, I'll let you tell your part.
Yeah, so it's crazy because I'm a sibling of 10. Go back a little bit. I'm a sibling of 10. I kind of grew up with, I like to say the best sides of, I grew up, I kind of like to say the best sides of both worlds because my mama stayed in the projects, and my dad, he was middle class. So I always saw him working like 2 jobs, 2 cars, and then, you know, going back to my mom when she stayed in the projects, I saw the normal things that you see in the projects, people selling drugs, stuff like that, and I actually became a product of my environment. And so, like Kesha say, her first year going off to college, I was on my way to prison. And it was during that time in prison that our bond, because we was just meeting, our bond actually grew, like we writing letters, she coming to visit me, we on the phone, you know, like she could have went on with her life, but she saw something in me that I didn't even know I had in myself. Yeah. And so coming home from prison, you know, I remember telling Kesha, like, you know, we not going through that no more. And I remember having that conversation with her too, telling her, you know, like, if we can make it through this, baby, we can pretty much make it through everything. Yeah. And so we've been 23 years in strong as of today. And like I say, I just remember getting out of prison, trying to get the job, right? Because I'm pretty sure you heard it's kind of hard to get a job with a felon. So I just remember working jobs like $8, $9, $10, and you know, I couldn't use that as a crutch. I knew I still had to provide. Yeah. And so I wound up getting my shot, getting a nice job, paying like $27, $28 an hour, machine operating. But the whole time I'm in that job, only thing I'm thinking about, like, it's got to be more. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't hit this point. I'm like, it got to be more. And so working 60 to 84 hours a week, I damn near worked myself to death. I remember coming home and I just passed out. When I passed out, I told Kesha, I woke up and I told Kesha, she was like, well, we're going to take you to the hospital. And that's the last place I was trying to go, to the hospital one night. But I'm glad I went that day, because if I wouldn't have went that day, I don't know if I'd be sitting right here today, because I had something called Bugatti. And it's something like an abnormal heartbeat. And they were saying if I wouldn't have came in today, they never would have caught it. And so it was like a real emotional time. But glad I made it. Glad I'm sitting here. And after that, I knew I couldn't go back to work how demanding my job was. Like I said, because we working 60 to 84 hours a week. And so I kind of been trying to get out of that situation anyway, because I always used to tell Kesha, like, baby, we more valuable than what these jobs paying us. Yeah. You know, and so it was during that time. And when I got out of work, she lost her father also, and she wound up losing her job. And so that's when I looked and I asked her, I say, we gonna turn up, or you gonna go get another job? And she was like, babe, I'm ready to turn up. And so we've been locked in ever since.
23 years?
23 years.
Lord have mercy. Black love in the making. Oh, yeah. So that story, there's so many layers there that I have to unpack. Let's go all the way back. First and foremost, question I gotta know. Who went up to who first? Like, how did this ultimately come together from the beginning?
It's probably 2 different stories, because he's going to tell you something completely different than what really happened. But
so I didn't really know Kesha because she was quiet, you know what I'm saying? And I was a troublemaker. So she said she used to bring my work down to me at ISS. Okay. And I never really noticed her. And so after that, I was kind of in trouble with the law. And this one 3-way was popping back then. And I remember being at my granddaddy's house, and my cousin was like, man, I got this girl, she want to holler at you. I'm like, who? He like, her name Kesha, you know? And so he like, we're finna call on 3-way. So they called on 3-way, and it's been a wrap since. Now,
what's your side of the story? Because you laughing like it's something entirely different.
Like, he told it a little bit different this time, but that's the real story, because usually we get a whole different story out of him. But yeah, we did, like, my best friend is actually his cousin. And like I said, yeah, I thought, he was cute, And so our cousins were best friends, like I said, the whole 3-way thing. So we did. And we met, that way. And we talked on the phone, because like I said, 3-way. We didn't have any social media of any of that. And so we talked a couple times. We met up a couple times, went out to eat McDonald's, like one of our first dates, with nothing fancy. But, and from there, we've been just kicking it ever since.
It wasn't fancy, but by how I did it was fancy. So I had a driver. We pulled up at her grandma's house. And, took her to McDonald's.
Come on, boy. That's it. That's all it is. Listen, that's luxury eating. If you're in high school. You're talking about. All right, so this is where it gets interesting, right? Because the story of the high school sweetheart is always nice to hear, but most individuals who usually date in high school don't make it as far as you guys have. But what's even more interesting along the journey, at one point, it's how you talked about it, you guys are kind of going in slightly different paths, right? You're going the traditional route of going to school. You end up finding yourself incarcerated. What's interesting about that point of the story to me is that for most women, at that point, it's just like, okay, this guy, he got to get his act together, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm not about to stick around and wait for him to figure it out. I got to go on and live my own life. You decide to do the opposite and essentially continue to ride it out with him. what were some of the things that you saw early on that made you have the conviction to say, like, no, this is my dude. I'm gonna stick by him despite that season he was going through in his life?
Yeah. So just like knowing him, like he's automatically like a go-getter, like a hustler. He's gonna make sure he's gonna make a way out of nothing, right? And just that was one thing that attracted me to him. Like I knew that he had that entrepreneurial spirit. Now back then I wasn't thinking of it as an entrepreneurial spirit. I just knew he wanted to get money. I knew he knew what he was doing. And so that was one thing. But I also knew he was very smart, and I also knew he was very determined and very loving and very family oriented. Coming from like 10 kids, and I knew how he loved his mom and how much he like praised his family. That was something that I could see in him that people maybe not have brought out of him, but I knew, I'm like, okay, I like that. But when he went to prison, like we were already dating, for close to a year, maybe 2 at that time. It was like that point of, I couldn't just leave him. I'm like, okay, that's not right. Like just me like trying to be morally good and all that. Like, but like naturally people, why would you stay with him? But at the same time, I'm thinking, no, I can't just desert him now because that's at his lowest moment. He's going to need somebody. Yeah. And I'm that support system. We've been confiding in each other for the past, 2 years. I can't do that. So that was my thing. And I knew that he could do more. I know we talked about a lot of things and dreams that we wanted to do as we got older. But we just didn't know how. I guess we didn't know it was going to happen. But it was like, if I don't stick with him and see it, then I'll never know if it's going to be possible or not. And so that was that thing of just like having that faith and like, all right, no, this man's going to change. He's going to do the right thing. He just needs somebody to help guide him along the way, because I knew his situation. I knew his story. I knew where he came from. It was like that point of, no, I'm gonna be right there. We're gonna rock this thing out together. And but I'm glad I did, because 23 years later, it's like,
I mean, we
here.
We are.
Yeah, we here. We here. So.
Okay, so let's. Okay, so you go through the season. You're incarcerated. You come out. You're able to, despite like you said, whenever you become incarcerated, it's very difficult for you to find work. You ultimately find work, and you're putting in the hours. But as you're navigating through that, you talk about knowing that there was more. So that's where it gets interesting for me, because at that time, did you already start to have any experience, whether it was through courses or through stuff you were seeing on the internet, with entrepreneurship? Do you have people in your family that were business owners that, kind of started to ingratiate you into that? Where did that feeling internally come from of knowing like, okay, I could stay here at this job and work till I'm 65, 70 years old, or I can go out and bet on me? Where did that come from?
So actually, my uncle, he's a business owner, but he never broke the game down to me or showed me the game. But that really came from just kind of watching, you familiar with JT Automation?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay, so that really came from watching JT Automation, and it's another guy I used to watch named Jeremy Cash. So I used to be at work with my headphone in, listen to JT Automations, come home, tell Kesha, baby, we got to try this, we got to do this. And she like, every day I wanted to do something different. She like, baby, slow down. We gotta master one thing first. Yeah. So just listen to JT Automation and watch Jeremy Cash. And what kind of made me want to do credit was because I saw him move from apartment to a mansion. But before he did this, I saw him take his wife on a private jet, all out credit. And I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it.
Okay. So now that's your ingratiation in entrepreneurship. You talk about the health scare, right? You find out, what's it called? Brugada? Yeah. Okay, got you. So you have the health scare, that happens, and it puts you in a scenario where you're like, I can't go back. Yeah. I know I got to take care of the kids, I got to pay the bills, but I can't go back there. You guys have that conversation about finally taking that leap into entrepreneurship. Kesha, what's going on in your mind as you guys are having a conversation? Because you've been with him up until this point. Yeah. You went through incarceration, through hospital. It's like, all right, now you about to do this entrepreneurship thing. Where are you mentally?
So not gonna lie, when he went, going back a little bit, when that happened, that was November 2023. I remember vividly, because this is coming up on 2 years. This is very recent. Yeah. So for me at that time, when I was talking to the doctors, when he went back for surgery, and how they were telling me he's lucky to be here. Most people don't make it out of this. That to me was a whole life scare, because all I'm thinking about is, dang, if I lose my husband out, my daughter's without a dad, I'm without a husband, what am I going to do next? Not really knowing. But it was a scary feeling. So when he came out of surgery, believe it or not, one of the first things he was saying was we got to do this. This is before I even lost my job. We got to do this. We got to go all in. We got to go get this Airbnb, because we've been talking about an Airbnb for years. And so I'm just thinking how are we going to do that? You can't go back to work. And he's like, no, we're going to make it work. But fast forward, 3 months, later, my dad gets sick. He's in the hospital. Now, mind you, I'd already missed a lot of time being out with him, missing time with my dad. They let me go. So it was that point of when he asked me again, I'm like, all right. It was almost not even a choice. We didn't have a choice of becoming entrepreneurs. It was we either going to go back and being, I know he always compares it being in prison again, wearing the uniforms and doing everything they said to do. Or we're going to make our own way. We know, I said, we see all these things, but we've got to do it. So for me, it was a scary thing. But it was almost I had to trust in him, trust in God, and believe that, okay, he's leading me the right way. Everything happens for a reason. So let's just do it. And I ain't gonna say try it out. It's either gonna work or it's gonna work. And that's kind of the mentality we had to take on. And here we are, 2 years later to being full blown entrepreneurs.
What talk a little bit, because people will see you guys today and think that it was a snap of a finger kind of thing, right? And y'all know, anyone who's really been in business a decent amount of time knows, like, you're gonna have to take some lumps and bumps if you're trying to get to a certain point. What did the early days of business look like for the both of you guys?
Not making money like that. Not really getting the clients like that. But we just kept thriving. It was one time like I'm like, man, we're not gonna do this. We're just gonna stick to the stock market. And Kesha was like, nah, we gonna stick with this, baby, because we never quit. We never quit nothing.
Yeah.
That's one thing about us. Like we never quit. We gonna keep going. We're gonna grind it out. We're gonna whatever we have to do, we're gonna do it to make it. We're gonna do whatever it takes to make it work.
Exactly. And like you said, just like that whole grinding out, like no matter what, when it came to having a baby, when it came to, sticking with him through jail, we knew we could not quit on anything. And there was that point of, like you said, they're like, y'all, entrepreneurship ain't pretty.
It's not.
Like it's great in the, I'm gonna say the end, because there's really no end to it, but it's not the pretty, easy, straight path. Like you said, there's ups and downs. There's gonna be times where you feel like everything's knocked out of you, right? And so there are moments, like I said, where there was no money coming in, but we were relying like on a credit card or savings or something that we had, pulling like our 401k from, because I, like, before all of this, I taught for like 13 years, and then I went into like corporate America after I had my daughter, but just pulling our 401k to live off of that, just until we could figure out this whole thing. But we knew that we could not give up, and it was a matter of spending money that we didn't even have at the moment. You know what I mean? Just to kind of get ourselves out there, to going into mentorships. So things like, how we gonna pay for this? I remember like one of our first mentorships was like $20K, and he's signing up for it. And I'm like,
we gonna get this 20K.
I'm like, and she eyeballing me like, what are you doing?
So but it was like that point of, we had to invest in ourselves to get the knowledge, to meet the people, to be able to do the things that we're doing now.
Powerful. What were the conversations earlier on? Because like both of you said, you didn't come from super strong entrepreneurial backgrounds. So what were the conversations around friends and family? Because typically for most of us, we're that black sheep, right? Like we're the first ones that's going to go out and start the business, trying to change things for family. But despite that, the conversations early on is, why don't you just go back and work your regular job? Or like, you wasting your time. Was that what it was for the both of you guys?
Oh yeah.
For me, like my family, like they kind of know, like we go getters, but they was hearing us, but they wasn't hearing us. You know what I'm saying? Until like the train started rolling, and now they believing, and now they seeing.
Right.
And like you said too, like people would always like, oh, you can just go. Like people like friends, family sending me like jobs that are hiring. I'm like, and this was like normally the normal Kesha would be like, oh yeah, I'm filling out this application. I'm doing this. I've been working since I was 15, so this is the first time I was actually out of work. And so I was turning down those job applications. I'm like, no, I ain't filling it out. Like he told me we ain't going back, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm trusting that. And so it was a hard thing, and people didn't understand, like, when we weren't showing up for going out for birthdays, or we weren't like going on family trips. We had to like isolate ourselves.
We didn't do nothing for like 6 months. We locked ourselves in the house for like 6 months until we ended these mentorships. Like we game planned, and it worked out.
That's it. And the only money we were spending was on classes, courses, webinars, whatever. That's all we were doing. But it's like we had to, because we had to block out the noise.
Right. Because a lot of people say they want it, but like, how bad do you want it? Like, what are you willing to give up to go up? Right. And like you gotta put in the time, you gotta put in the work, and you gotta put in the effort, or it's not gonna work.
Ever. So let's talk now, because you guys have built a brand where you're educating people around leveraging credit and understanding credit, which is super important, especially for people like us, because for a long time the conversation in our households around credit was gas emergencies. That's it. Outside of that, leave it alone. You don't touch it. Don't talk to me about it. But we understand now, being in the circles we're in, that there's so much more to it. How did you guys find yourself in this space as you're navigating through the entrepreneurial journey, about not only starting to use credit, I'm sure, to start your business, but leveraging it and starting to educate others on how they could do the same?
So you say you heard about credit in your house, right? So for us, it was a little different, because we never heard the word credit in our house. Never.
Outside of don't use it.
It
was not even, it wasn't like for emergencies, like don't get a credit card. Mine was like, don't get a credit card. So
it was crazy, right? Because like where we from, it's kind of like the side of town I'm from. It was kind of more like I don't really know the word to use, but you had like a check cash in place and you had a liquor store right across, right beside the check cash in place. So it kind of was set up for failure, you know. But like I never really heard the word credit in my house like that. Knew more about the food stamps, but I really didn't know about the credit.
So
go ahead. Oh no, I was gonna say, like you were saying too. I mean, just the point in not growing up around credit, and like for me, what happened was when I turned 18 and I got that credit card offer, I accepted it because I'm like, nah, I'm doing this because you know it naturally as you start. We accepted it, and you know it was like probably like a $300 credit card. I don't know, but it felt like endless money. But of course, I messed that up because I had no knowledge of it, but I wanted it because I saw the other folks getting it, and I'm like, well, why can't I get when I hear what they're saying? But why not? And it was just that point of naturally doing something I ain't gonna say I wasn't supposed to be doing, but what I thought I wasn't supposed to be doing. But I didn't use it the right way either. So
let's unpack that a little bit more. When we talk about credit, once again, we're kind of on the other side of it because we now have the education around the importance of it, how it could be used as a tool to create cash flow and build wealth and do all these incredible things. But there are people who may be watching or listening that still have a large misconception around what it is, how it works, and how they can do what you guys pretty much have done and being able to leverage it. If someone is watching and they're starting from ground zero, but they want to be where you guys are, what's the first step that they would need to take in terms of understanding credit so they can start putting themselves in a position to leverage it later on down the line?
Well, first thing they will have to do, like a lot of people be scared to do this, but you got to pull your credit report. You got to pull your credit report, all 3 bureaus. Like I talked to some people, they were like, nah, I haven't looked at my credit report in the years. I'm scared to pull it. But I'm like, you got to see what's on your credit report.
Yeah.
That's the only way. So like I said, pulling it, looking at all 3, you know, like a tri-merge report, like that's all 3 bureaus at one time. That way you can see. But not only that, just understanding it. Like so many people think about just the score. Like they brag about, I got a 700, a 750, but that is nothing without that profile, right? And I think what we as adults, right, if you're a responsible adult, I hear parents, whatever, if you have a credit card, just putting your child on your credit card when they're like 17 or 18 and giving them like that head start because for so long, like for us, we're jumping out there trying to do it on our own and having no clue. But if you start your child at 17 or 18, give them a 700 credit score by the time they graduate from high school and show them how to build it up, it's going to be a different story. But building that credit up as a young person is going to be so much more valuable because they're going to appreciate it and understand it, but helping them understand what a primary account is because people they talk about it. All we hear about is trade lines and authorized users, but they don't realize you have to have things in your name. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And I mean, like, when we talk about things in your name, I mean, like real, like quality things. Like, you know, if you're 17 or 18, even if you're just starting credit at 40, it doesn't matter. A couple of credit builders like, you know, Kovo, like $10 a month, small things like that, you know, Credit Strong, $10, $25 a month. Those are good, but at the same time, too, they're not quality all the time. 1 or 2 of those are fine, but you also want to go to like your local credit unions and get like a secured credit card. You know, maybe try for like a Capital One, but not too many of those because the banks don't want too many like, you know, consumer little credit cards or not too many department store cards either, but just those little things.
And when we start getting this credit, like we have to be responsible with this credit, right? Like
Talk about it.
We get it, but we get it, we swipe it, now we got to pay it. So make sure you paying your credit card bills on any bills on time. Like for me, I like to set mine up on auto pay so I don't forget.
So once we were going out and you talked about a couple of very important things, it's profile over score.
Absolutely.
Different things to build the credit out. You also mentioned working with local credit unions. Talk a little bit more about that because I think one of the bigger questions I get, I'm sure you guys get all the time, is like, all right, I built my credit up. Where do I go to now, you know, add different cards and things of that sort before I start potentially looking later on to get funding? And people are like, do I go to a Chase? Do I go to a Capital One? Do I go to a Navy Federal? Because they hear all this information online. They don't really know where to go. How are you guys typically coaching individuals on the best lenders to work with and why, if I heard correctly, is typically credit unions one that you usually recommend?
Oh yes, we have to like wait and make sure like who. So, but no, I tip credit unions, right? Because you got your tip different levels of banks. Like you got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Your tier 3 being like your, you know, your local credit unions, the ones that you grew up seeing every day, right? But depending on where you're from, you may not see a lot of credit unions. So we tell people to start there because they're for the people. They're by the community. They're going to be very important and a little bit more lenient when it comes to underwriting, right? So starting at your local credit union, because typically you probably had your check deposited there. You've probably you probably know the local teller, but just having that relationship with them opens up a lot of doors. People like try to bypass this step and go to like a Chase or something. Chase is cool, But at the same time, that's like a tier 1, like a top tier bank. But if you start with that local credit union, you're going to get a larger limit most of the time. Like a lot of people, they love Navy Fed. Navy Fed is great, but there's a lot of local ones too that you can get higher limits from if you build that relationship. Like, I mean, I know one that I could think of, like, we got Navy Fed, of course, everybody knows that one. But a place like a Wings Credit Union, you can start there. That's one you can open up no matter where you live at.
Yeah.
But you can deposit your $5, $10 and put in a couple, $20, $30 a week or every 2 weeks. But then go back and pre-qualify for a credit card, and boom, now you've got your first high limit credit card for $10,000 or $15,000, which is better than if you would have went to Chase and got a $2,000 or maybe a $200 credit card because you didn't really establish anything. So we tell people all the time, like those credit unions, and if you don't know of any, go into somewhere like ibanknet.com.
Yeah.
Right? You put your state in there, you filter it out by credit unions, banks, or credit unions or banks. But I like to say start with your credit unions. Find the one at the very top of the list in your city or your state. They're gonna have the most money because that's important. Not all credit unions are created equal, right? Because people think the little bank down the street might not have no money, so they can't give you $10,000, they don't have it. So finding the one that has the most deposits, figure out what it requires to get into that bank. Start making your deposits, build that relationship, and then go back and apply.
And two tools that I like to use also is Reddit.
Reddit?
Yeah, Reddit. Yeah.
Okay, talk to me about Reddit.
So Reddit, right? They collect a lot of data, right? So you can go on Reddit and you can pretty much type in the Navy Fed, or you can type in credit, and then like say if you type in Navy Fed. So boom, whoever done been a Navy Fed is gonna come up and they pretty much gonna come up and let you know where their credit was at, what they had on their profile, how much money they got from Navy Fed, and basically they're gonna give you all the data points that you need off Reddit. Reddit, and another one is credit boards.
Okay.
Yeah. And credit boards works like pretty much the same like Reddit, right? You can see, because a big question that we always get is, what bureau are they pulling from?
Yeah.
And like I tell people, the biggest thing is like, that matters, but make sure you got all three of them in order. But if you don't, because I know how it is, you might not have, but if you go to credit boards, you can filter that out. So if you go into a certain bank, like say if you're going to Wings, you can type in Wings and credit boards or on Reddit.
Yeah.
And it's going to give you like, the scores and who they're pulling from and things like that. But if you don't know, you can always call and ask too. Like that's the biggest thing. Call the credit bureau. Call the bank and find out.
Because it might be like you might read something on Reddit, like, and all of it pretty much accurate, but sometimes in different states they might pull from a different bureau. So that's why it's always good just to do your homework and call that bank and see like where they actually pulling from.
I've been doing the show for several years. I've never heard somebody reference Reddit. And I got to do some homework after this episode. I got to go check Reddit myself. I'm on there all the time. I never thought, let me look into the data points for this bank or that bank. Interested. I'm checking
when you check it out, let me know what you think.
I got you. Absolutely. Okay, so the personal side is taken care of. If we're speaking to entrepreneurs, 9.9 times out of 10, we're trying to take care of the personal so we could go out and start getting access to things on the business side. When we're going to these banks, what are they typically looking for on the business side before they're comfortable and confident to give us 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 approvals like we're normally seeing online from other individuals?
Well, for us, like, it's gonna all start with your personal credit. Like It's gonna start with your profile. Your profile has to be structured the right way. No lakes, no derogatories. Utilization had to be. The people like to say 30%, but we teaching to kind of be under 20.
Okay.
Me myself, I like to be around 6 or 7% overall.
Okay.
And like you say, you got to make sure you have enough primaries also on the personal side. Also, I know before I went to the business side, I kind of did this by accident, not really knowing what I was doing, but I kind of ran my personal up to like 100,000 and on the personal side. So that way, when I went to the business side, it really wasn't that hard to start getting business because all it is comparable credit.
I agree. Like what you said, like, that's the one thing people don't realize. Like they want that business funding, but they want to come with a $300 Capital One card and think that's it. Like I built it up. I got my one primary account. Why the bank won't give me $20,000? Well, because you only have it, like you said, you don't have any comparable credit. So like that's a very, very important thing that a lot of people skip.
Outside of the personal credit, does how the business is structured, does that matter at all when it comes to how we're working with lenders? Because for me, I work with a lot of business owners and they come to me and they just had an LLC and they think they're ready to fly.
That's it, right? That's all
I'm
you
just
need.
like, I don't know about that. What has y'all experience been up until this point?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you're right. Because people get that LLC, they post it on Facebook. That's it. Game on. I got my business. But it's like, you have a business name. So, you have it registered, but you need your LLC. You can go, I mean, like, even going to, I like to use Busy, right? But there's a lot of other sites. But getting your LLC, but you also have to have that EIN number with it too. But going back to the LLC, you have to also make sure that you have a name that isn't high risk. A lot of people don't realize that there are certain industries that are like restricted or just like, frowned upon or whatever, however you want to look at it, that won't be able to get as much funding. So having a low risk business name, having your EIN number, having a business address. Like, I mean, there's a lot of debate that goes on with that, but like like I said, like this, having the virtual business address is great. Like, I mean, not only for banking purposes, but just for business and safety purposes. You got crazy people because that's public knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So if I put my home address out there on the Secretary of State website, somebody gets mad at me because I ain't do their credit right, or if I'm baking cookies, I baked some nasty cookies or something. They
knock on the door.
So you gotta be on point with that. I mean. Not only that, having a business phone number is always great. Even if it's a second cell phone, just having that separate, even for yourself, having a separate second number is going to be good too. I mean, having like a landing page, even if you don't have a full website, but a landing page so that if that bank, Googles you, they can find something or, on you. But a lot of those things are just so important. But people, like you said, they get that LLC. And that's it. And they think they're ready for business.
Ready to fly.
They ain't going nowhere. They on the ground. That's it.
What if the next time you heard from the banks, it was a $50,000 to $100,000 approval letter instead of another denial? You've been putting in the work, balancing your job, your business, and your family responsibilities. But here's the truth that most entrepreneurs never hear. Hard work alone is not enough to get the banks to say yes. Banks approve entrepreneurs who are structured the right way, and that's the missing piece that's been holding you back all along. We've seen it over and over again. Entrepreneurs who came to us who were stuck getting denial after denial got access to the right system, structure, and strategy that unlocked $50,000, $75,000, and even $100,000 credit approvals. And here's the real cost of waiting. Every month you go without having access to capital is another month where your opportunities are slipping into another business's hands. That's why we created the Fast Track to Capital, a free masterclass where we break down the exact steps needed to make yourself look fundable to banks so that you can access the capital needed to scale your business. We only do this training a limited amount of times per year, so if you're ready to secure your spot, click the link above or below this video so that you don't go another year without having the access to capital that your business needs.
So personal is taken care of, the business is taken care of. I'm now in a position where I can go out and start leveraging all this heavy lifting I've done beyond. Talk to me about, before we start coaching other individuals on how they do it, walk me through what you guys did when you got to that point. Okay, babe, we took care of the personal credit. We took care of the business credit. Boom. Now it's time. We have the 10, 20, 40, 50,000, however much we need. Talk about the leveraging side and some of the different ways that you guys have been able to take business credit in your own journey and start leveraging it to build your businesses, different things that you were investing in earlier on, mistakes maybe you made early on, and things like that.
Well, like Kesha said, we got our first Airbnb with a $10,000 business credit card. We got the first Airbnb. It was like $8,000. Turned around and made like $60,000 in 8 months. But we put everything that we needed pretty much on that business credit card with the Chase. So we made the $60,000. We got 117,000 reward points just for spending the money and that's something else people gotta understand and realize too. Like, credit is going to pay you back. Like, if you treat your credit right, it's gonna treat you right. And so we was able to do that. And then like once we did that, once I paid that 0% down, I got a $9,800 increase. So with that $9,800 increase, we pretty much ran the same play when it got another Airbnb. So that was our first investment.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, and then that was the thing too. It was 0% interest for 12 months. So a lot of people don't realize when it comes to these business credit cards, yes, there's a million of them out here, but finding something with 0% interest, it's like a layaway to me. You think about, I'm not paying any interest on it. So when I get something like an $8,000 Airbnb, that gives me time. So as an entrepreneur, look for those 0% interest credit cards. People always think about business loans, but you're paying interest back right away on the loan. If I don't do anything with that, loan, I'm still making that payment. But on a credit card, if I had to take my time, I didn't use it the first month or so, I have no payment. Like there's no harm. But even with the 0% interest, I've got the 12 months to pay it back. Like you said, we, spent $8,000, made $60,000 back, paid it down. They doubled the line, doubled the limit. And then we went back and got another credit card to get, so we got a second Airbnb as well. We've even used it for the stock market. We leverage that. So anything, now we use it for like ad spend, mentorships. anything that we can get on that 0% interest, we're doing it because it gives us that time and that flexibility of paying it back without feeling like we're being, penalized or taxed right after that.
And you said something very important about the 0% interest. It gives you time. And like, I know for us, we hear a lot of people complain about, well, I'm not going to have enough time to do that. So the 0% interest is going to give you the time you need to flip the money to do what you need to do.
And like we had 12 months, but there's a lot of banks out here. If you go to like what's called an Elon Financial Bank,
18,
24. 20, exactly. Like, so now you got almost 2 years. If they ain't enough time to get your business off the ground and flip it, I don't know. Maybe rethink that plan, but that gives you plenty of time. And then you're only paying the minimum back, the 1%, 2%. So you got to think about it. You ain't spending a whole lot. Even if you ain't making money yet in your business, I'm sure you can figure out a way to pay that, $200-$300 credit card bill at that time for those couple months.
Because you got 18 months to do it.
18 months. And then if you're smart about it, then you're going to get another credit card with 0% interest and roll that right on over in that. Now you got 3-4 years. But you got to understand it. That's how you play the game. So you got to realize, like, when that 12 months is almost up, if I ain't paid that card off, okay, let me go apply for another card. Let me take that balance, do a balance transfer to another 0% interest. Now I'm starting it over.
And that's why we love teaching, Marvin. We love teaching people the game, right? Because growing up, like, we wasn't taught this game. We was taught how to stack racks, and so now we learning how to stack this credit. And this is the game. This is the game changer.
The way y'all just broke it down is because it's like, if we go through it, you get your business credit card. Most business credit, if we go for a 0% interest card, there's going to be, you have that 12 months, it's where we're not paying any extra interest on the money. But also, if we spend a certain amount of money, we get the points back. So we spend the money, we get X amount of points back. We could use that to either cover a portion of a balance. We use that to travel for business. We use to do all these different things, right? After you spend the money, then you get a credit limit increase. And I got even more money that's also 0% interest I could go ahead and use. I go ahead and get my bread back. And now, like Kesha said, even worst case scenario, even if I don't make my money back right away, I can go ahead and roll that money over again as long as my personal credit is still good.
Yes, exactly. That's always important.
Roll it over to another card. Now I turn 1 year, or potentially, depending on the card, 2 years into another 2 year. I got dang near 4 years of 0% interest money. I could just keep wash, rinse, and repeating. Listen, man, what are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. People just like, they ignore those little things. Like I want a business loan. Like, you sure you don't want a credit card? They want the loan. Like, they don't realize, like, the power of that credit card and how you can use it. Because, like, for us, I know when we got our very, very first one, we have no idea. We just we got our LLC. Right. And we ran straight to the bank. They hit us with, a $500 limit. But we were just, we didn't know. This is before the knowledge of understanding it.
We didn't ask for no reconsideration.
No, nothing. But it's just like we just went straight forward. But the thing with it was we were afraid to almost use that card because we didn't understand how to use it. We had a business at the time, but we didn't know what to use it on. We were like trying to figure out, okay, can we swipe it here? Is it going to be, a good thing, a bad thing?
I'm like, man, they probably watching every swipe.
We didn't understand. Once we really understood credit, and it was like, okay, so we can use this to buy furniture. Okay, I can use this to pay, the Airbnb light bill. All right, bet, like that. And it's like, the thing about it with any credit, whether it's business credit or personal credit, it's going to be what we call anyways money, right? I got to spend the money anyways. I got to pay the rent. I got to pay the light bill. I got to buy the furniture. Why not do it with my credit card? Get the points, like Ty says, convert those points into cash, convert those points into statement credit, or convert it into a trip. Like, that's how we travel. Like, we spend our credit card for anything that we're going to have to get the points, and then use that to get a flight. I mean, it makes sense. Let credit should be paying you. Like, that's how it is.
Because when you use that debit card, you and I both know, only thing you get is that receipt. That's
literally,
that's all you get in that receipt. And like I say, and another thing I want to say, like I said, we didn't ask for no not no increase, but reconsideration. That's something that you want to do. Like, you want to ask for that reconsideration, even if you going for 10 or 15,000, you still ask for that reconsideration, because you never know, they might give you an extra 5, and now you at 20 or 25,000. Yeah. So you always want to do that reconsideration,
regardless, approval or denial. People think it's only for denials. No, it's for approvals too. You go in,
because I know for one of our clients we was working with, he had the perfect credit score, and he got denied, and we asked for a reconsideration, and got him 30, 40,000?
And we got him 50.
50,000, just like that.
Ball game. So now this is where it gets interesting, right? Because you get the credit, you leverage it, you essentially start investing in Airbnb, and for most entrepreneurs, this is where it gets tricky because you start making a couple thousand. You know what I'm saying the business money starts coming in. It's looking good in the bank account, and all of a sudden we start to deal with shiny object syndrome, to where it's like, okay, I'm making a couple of thousand here, but okay, this other thing then came across the table. All right, what about this opportunity here? And what happens is we now find ourselves in a situation where we had this successful business that we leverage our credits to start creating cash flow. We take our eye off the mark because something else looks a little bit more attractive. Was that something that you guys struggle with in the earlier stages of starting to leverage credit to invest in your business? And if so, how did you work around that?
Oh yeah, that's something we struggle with. Like, I ain't gonna say really. We struggled a little bit because we got a dump truck right now. We got a dump truck that's been sitting for like how long now? About a year.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know with my defibrillator I couldn't get my CDLs, and so I went and got the dump truck, and just to off credit, just to find out that I couldn't get my CDLs, and so. And another thing, like we just been thinking about real estate lately, thinking about jumping into real estate. Even though we're doing Airbnb, but we still just been thinking about like just doing some fix and flips, but just trying to get more information on that also.
Yeah. But like as far as like shiny objects though, I don't know, we pretty like humble, chill, like flying under the radar people. So like we didn't really worry about buying a lot of chains. Like it wasn't like, I would say probably the flashiest thing that we just recently got was a Cybertruck, right? All off credit, no money down, everything. But I will say this, that's a marketing tool. It's wrapped in our business name. So we got it. Yes, it's flashy, yes, it's shiny, but it's also a marketing tool to make more money. And so that's kind of, but like as far as everything, like I know what you mean. Like, cause you see the things and you feel like, okay, do I need to go buy this? Do I need to go take this exotic vacation? Do I need to go, buy this chain, wear these shoes? You start to feel that and the pressure of it because you're in the industry, but you have to realize that now, all that stuff will come, but at the same time, too, let the credit pay for it. Like, not the actual swiping the credit card, but let the points, the reward points, let that pay for it if that's what we're going to do.
Powerful, 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 powerful. One of the questions I've asked over the course of the past couple of episodes, I'll ask you guys, which has been very, very interesting for me, is as entrepreneurs, we primarily invest in three things, right? Which is our business, in relationships, and then in mentorship or some form of education. I'm curious to know for you guys, in your journey, if you had to put it in order of greatest return to least greatest return, so mentorship, your business, and relationships, what would you say has given you the best return on investment of those three, if you had to put them in order?
Mentorship, I'm going to say that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because when I think about it, mentorships for me are going to bring everything else, right? Mentorships bring the relationships. Because once you get in the mentorship, if you're in it, you have to do your part. Like, you can listen all day. Like, people talk about the more you learn, the more you earn. That's true, but you can't do anything but learn. You got to actually execute. So when you get in the mentorship and you execute, the mentor, whoever you're with, the people that you meet, you're leveraging those relationships. Relationships from people, relationships to banks, all of that. It makes a big difference, and then that just brings on, everything else.
And I know our first mentorship, like Kesha said, we paid $20,000. And it has nothing to do with what we do today. Like, it was on the stock market. Shout out to Christopher Jackson. It was on the stock market. But if we wouldn't have locked in with Chris, like, you know how you open up your computer and you open up that one tab. So Chris was our first tab. So that tab, we opened up another tab. We got in with JD and started doing the Airbnb. Then we opened up another tab, got in with Darius, and we started learning about the credit and the funding. Yeah. So mentorship, like, that is going to be the key.
Why do you guys think in our community the conversation around mentorship still has such a negative stigma? And what do you think are some of the things we could do to start fixing it? Because you guys understand the power of it. Like, okay, if I pay somebody who's been where I'm trying to get 10, 20, 30,000, I'm not losing the money. I'm planting the money so that I don't have to lose 5, 10, 15 years of my life trying to figure it out. But for a lot of individuals, they tie the word scam around it, and it still feels like it's something we got to work through. So what would you guys say is something we could do to work through that as a community?
I mean, like, I don't get it. Like, it is some scam out here. Like, I mean, I got about 5, 10. I know you got a lot of fake pages too floating around.
Yeah.
So it is some scam out here, right? But you just, like, you really, really got to do your research when you doing something like this. Like, you got to go to people's social media and make sure that they doing what they say they doing. You got, like, if we go to Amazon, I know my wife, she go to Amazon, she gonna read every review before she purchase anything. So you pretty much got to do your homework, and like I say, study the person that you're getting ready to purchase for, but a lot of people they use the word scam because they still confused about money. And so a lot of people, they don't really some people don't really want to invest in themselves, like,
Yeah.
but that's what it's going to take. You're going to have to invest into yourself if you want to get to that next level.
And that's what I think it is. It's all about the invest. It's the money, because like people only see the cost of everything. They don't see the value of anything else, and that's like the hard part, especially in our community. You say $5,000, oh, you're trying to scam me. Like, no, I'm really just trying to help you. But if you don't have any skin in the game, you won't take it seriously. And that's the biggest thing. It's a trust issue. It's the money issue, but I think the way of getting around that is people just have to really give things a chance. Like, you really have to be open-minded. It all starts with that mindset of realizing that if I put this in, they can go spend $5,000 on a Gucci bag and that's okay, but you get nothing in return. But if I ask you for $5,000 to invest in the mentorship, it's a problem when I'm giving you everything that I've learned plus more to get you ahead. So that $5,000 is going to turn into $50,000 before you know it, but you just have to believe and have the patience. But you go spend that $5,000 on the shiny objects. I mean, it's going to look cute for the gram, but at the same time, what happens after that? What happens when the next fad, the next trend comes? You have nothing. So I think the biggest thing for like our community is like, listen, y'all, yes, there are scams out here. We ain't saying there are not. Right. But like Ty said, doing your homework, trusting and believing and investing in yourself, because that's the biggest investment you can make. We can go give a college $50,000 and can't even make $50,000 a year. Like that's the scam. Like that could be the scam when you start thinking about it. But you go give a mentor that money, that's their time that you're investing. They're also investing in you. So just believing it and trusting the process and realizing that paying a mentor, whoever it is, doesn't mean it's going to work. You have to actually do the work and follow the blueprint. That's the biggest thing. I think that a lot of people get confused. Like, oh, I paid them $10,000. Well, did you do anything? Like, if you don't do anything with it, then yeah, you may have wasted your money, but that's on you.
What's great for me, and I want to make sure I heard this correctly. At the top of the episode, we said it, 23 years.
Yep. Yep.
As I listen to you guys speak, there's such a clear alignment that exists when it comes to your views around business, money, investing, and things of that sort, which is powerful. And I think it's important because there's somebody who's an entrepreneur who's watching us right now, and they're watching you guys speak, and they're in a relationship with somebody where it's like, for them, all right, I want to invest in real estate. I want to learn about credit. I want to do all these things. And they're having these conversations with their partner, and they're not able to see it, right? They don't have somebody that they're with at this current moment in time that's as supportive as maybe Kesha was for you or you were for Kesha. What's some of the counsel that you would give an individual like that who's in a situation right now? It's like, man, I'm with somebody, and I have the vision of where I'm trying to get to, but they can't see it yet, and I don't really know what to do at this point. From you guys' experience and being a couple.
Don't give up on that person, right? And just keep doing you and just keep putting in that work also. But in the meantime, like, just keep putting it in front of your partner also. Like, even though they might say they don't want to hear, they might not say, I don't got time for it, but you still want to just kind of keep, not saying put it all the way on them, but you still just want to make sure that they saying you put in the work, and you also want to make sure that you keep putting it in their face also.
And I think, like I said, like just keep, like, it's like with him, when he was coming home from work every day talking about these entrepreneur things, like, cause I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I'm just going to work. Like, I'm going to get my paycheck, whatever you talk about, that ain't nothing. But but the fact that he kept like, no, this is what, look, but it's like showing the results. Like, look, he did this, we can too. Like, and it's like seeing like what's so different. But when it comes from like a partner, a marriage, relationship standpoint, you have to realize that you're not going to always see eye to eye. Like, it's just, that's one of those things. You have to realize there's going to be gives and takes. It's going to be a point of like, where he may have an idea that I don't really think, but I have to be willing to allow him to try that idea out. And if it works, okay, cool. If it doesn't, I told you so. No, but I'm just saying, but it's like that point of we have to really like, be willing to, like, that's the part, just being like in a relationship, is being like understanding and like, okay, let's try it. Let's give it a chance. And just really, like I said, taking a bet on yourself. And, like, not everybody is going to be able to do it, but it's one of those things that you should try, because what we've realized is that when we're doing these things together, going back to like credit and funding, like it's double. Like if he gets 20,000, all right, boom, I can go get 20. If he opens up an LLC, okay, I can do the same thing. Now we're building this legacy together versus, separate or just one person doing it.
And it kind of go back to that grind mode too. Like, you want to show that person also like how uncomfortable you getting. You might still be working a job also. Both of y'all might still be working that job, but you coming home, you not on the couch watching Netflix. You on that laptop watching the course, or you watching the class. You getting uncomfortable so that you can get comfortable. But just letting that person see just letting that person see the growth, and trust me, when they start going, they'll pretty much catch on.
To piggyback off of that, going back to it, we talked about how, once again, Kesha, it's not like you came into a situation where Ty was already established and you're kind of just like latching on. You guys built this thing together from the ground up. Even when you couldn't see it, you were just like, all right, I'm gonna rock out with him and we're gonna see how far we go. What are some of the things that entrepreneurs, let's say I'm not in a relationship, but I'm looking for somebody. What are some of the things that I can look for in an individual to know, okay, am I with somebody, or am I interested in somebody that's just a talker? Like, everybody got a bunch of ideas. Like, all right, I want to get an Airbnb. I want to be a 6-figure entrepreneur. I want to do all these things. Versus the person that's saying it, but actually going out and do it. What are some of those qualities that I should be looking for to know the difference between the two versus to go ahead and make a decision on somebody?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's gonna start with the big man.
Man upstairs.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if you ever heard this saying together, but a couple that pray together, stay together. That's something we do. We pray together, and you meet that person just like you're not gonna know their background like that, but just kind of knowing, what's the word I'm looking for, man? Just kind of like
I'm thinking of like more. You have to the person has to be like, they have to have some action. They got to have some motion, right? Something like you said, people can be all talk, but like you said, like even if you're just meeting somebody, you might not be praying with them, you might not be doing so much in depth, but
they got to be on
yeah, they do. They have to be on it, but they have to, like I said, if they're talking about being a 6-figure earner. Okay, what are they doing? If it's being a 6-figure earner, but all they're doing is playing the game, all they're doing is sitting on the couch watching Netflix, they can tell you about every piece of gossip. That might not be the person. But if that person is telling you they want to be a 6-figure earner or own an Airbnb, and you see them researching it, you see them talking to people, they're in the room, like getting in the room, that's a real thing. If you see them like they can't go out with you this weekend because they're at a convention, in another city, that's when you know, okay, that person's for real. They know they're putting the action behind it. Like it's not just the words anymore.
You, moving forward from there, you guys wear a couple hats. So you're entrepreneurs, okay, married couple, but you're also parents, right? You both have a daughter. You didn't come from backgrounds that forged a lot of what you guys have today, but I'm curious to know now, as parents to this young child, what are some of the things that you guys are doing differently to make sure that what you guys had to go through, she essentially doesn't go through, and she has a head start when it comes to her understanding of financial literacy and credit and investing and business, that other people who are watching could also take note on as well? Because there's some entrepreneurs watching right now, they got 5-year-old, 6-year-old kids. They don't know how to start those conversations around money, right? But they may be able to learn from you guys' experience and start to kind of lay that foundation. So what did that look like for you guys?
Go ahead.
I mean, like, it's crazy. She only 3, but she already know about credit, right? So, cause she see us use our credit card all the time, and like we might go to McDonald's or something. Once we get in the inside, I'll let her pay. And I just remember the other day, Kesha was at McDonald's, and she was getting ready to pay for the food, and Kesha was like, "Zoe, you gonna pay?" She was like, "No, you gonna pay." And so Kesha was like, "How I'm gonna pay?" And she was like, "With your credit card." And so Kesha was like, "I left my credit card at home." And so she like, "Well, you can pay on your phone like this." So, she already kind of like, she already listening and she's seeing, but just making sure we had that conversation with her when she is old enough to realize like the importance of credit, just making sure we sitting down and schooling her, letting her know how to use the credit, how not to abuse the credit. Yeah. I think that's going to take her a long way.
Yeah. Like I said, just start having that conversation, because like it was such a thing that we didn't talk about. The conversation was not there. The word wasn't there. But for her to hear it and say, and like use the word credit freely now, like she imitates us a lot because we do a lot of webinars. So she imitates us. She'll be in the other room. "My name is Markeisha. This is my credit card." Like I hear her. She does that a lot. It's funny, but the fact that she has that vocabulary now, and I think just putting that vocabulary in kids right now of credit card and authorized user, like even though they may not understand it, kids pick up on a lot. If they can understand the latest dance, they can start to understand these credit principles, and realizing that we have to open up that conversation. They're not gonna, like, don't leave it to the world to teach them, because the world is not going to teach them the right way. Start at home first. Like I said, letting them see, like, when you're swiping this card, like, it ain't free money. We have to pay it back. Like just talking to them about it, letting them see it if they're older, showing them what the balance looks like, talking to them about, okay, this is the kind of accounts you want to have. Like, let's go open up your bank account so that when you get older, we can get you a secured credit card. Like, and just having that, letting it be a free conversation, and realizing that you have, like, making them understand that this is something we're going to have. Like, you can't do it no other way. Like, you can, cash is cool, but like I said, credit is really going to be the king, the queen. It's going to be that thing that's going to take you further. You may not have $100,000 in the bank to go buy a house, but if you have good credit, you can still go buy that house. And it's having your child realize that, okay, the things that I want in life are going to be on the other side of credit, but it all starts in the household and you teaching them what it is.
Absolutely, because I know I got a real close friend, right? And his father worked in the bank for 32, 33 years and never explained to him about credit.
I know you lying.
Yeah,
Boy, you working in the bank industry for 32 years.
For 32 years and never explained to him about credit. And so that just let me know, I'm like, wow, and that's a conversation me and Kesha had. We're going to make sure by the time Zoe 10, 11 years old, she's going to know the ins and the outs about the credit game.
You guys have been through so much together, from health scares, prison, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, the ups and downs of marriage. We talked about something off air. I don't know if you guys would feel comfortable talking about it on air. We don't have to if you don't want to. But when I heard it, I thought it was very inspirational, because it was just, once again, another chapter in you guys' book about just how parenthood came to be. Is that something you're comfortable talking about on air?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
So for us, we went through an infertility battle, right? So being together 23 years, for 10, almost 11 of those years, we didn't have a child, but, thought, okay, whatever. But when we wanted to have a child, it wasn't happening, right after we got married. So it took us 10 years. We went through an infertility battle using IVF, in vitro. Now, needless to say, we just started doing, learning more about credit in the past 2 or 3 years. But that whole 10, 11-year journey, everything was out of pocket. Everything was cash. Now we're talking about having, miscarriages, getting pregnant through using this in vitro, which is not cheap, it's expensive, having a miscarriage. So that's $20,000, might as well say down the drain at this point, because it failed, and that's like a heartbreaking, not only financially, but emotionally as people. Like, when you lose a child, when you lose anybody, it's hard. And not doing that once, but doing that 3 times, right? That would have, like, naturally as a woman, like, I felt defeated. I'm like, okay, I'm with him, I've been with him, but I don't know if he's going to stick with me through this. That's like the thoughts that I'm having in my mind, because it's like, it's a hard thing of, I know how bad he wants a child.
You know what I told you, I say, baby, listen, whatever it take, we going to get this, we going to have our child.
Exactly.
We're going to do whatever it take. I don't care how much it costs, even though I didn't have it, but I didn't care how much it costs. I knew how we wanted this.
Yes. And so it was at that point we kept going, It took us, like, we were traveling to New York, we were traveling to Mexico, trying all these different things. But then, like I said, in 2022, we got pregnant. But of course, like, for any woman, anybody, you get pregnant when you've had that many scares and miscarriages, your mind is automatically thinking the worst. Like, you can't even enjoy it. But, we were able to, that was a successful one. This is where we got our miracle baby, Zoe Lynn, and so, but that was like a journey for us, like a long journey. Like, we'd already been, like I said, through a lot of things, but that was a journey for us. That was the one that was worth it. Yes, it drained all our pockets. Yes, I wish we had credit back then, because we could have easily put, the money on a credit card. However, we didn't. So it was like, now hindsight 2020 for anybody who's going through in vitro, anybody who's going through infertility, having that credit, it doesn't fix the problem, but it makes it easier on the pockets, which makes things just a tad bit easier when you're not thinking about the financial piece, the emotional piece, the medical. It's so many factors and layers into that it's a hard time. But being able to have a supportive, like, husband, during that time was like the most important thing. Having him, like, no, we're good. We're gonna stick through this together. We're gonna get what we want, But that's been our motto for everything. If we want it, we're going to get it through hell or high water. We're going to make sure it happens.
Absolutely.
You've seen people post their 50K approvals online, but have you ever wondered why it hasn't happened for you yet? You're clocking in at your 9 to 5, you're building your business after hours, you're even stacking your 401k and setting money aside for investments. So on paper, you're doing all the right things, but here's the problem. Growth feels slower than it should, opportunities keep passing you by because the capital isn't there, and you start wondering if building a real legacy for your family is even possible. It's not about effort or commitment, because you've already proven that you have both. The missing piece is having the proper structure. That's why inside of our free masterclass, The Fast Track to Capital, I'm going to show you a step-by-step process on how entrepreneurs just like you are securing $50,000 to $100,000 in capital safely without wasting years on trial and error. So if you want to secure your seat, click the link above or below this video to save your spot, and don't keep grinding without the structure that gets real results.
Listening to you guys' story and everything that you've been through, and even for people watching it, I think it's a true testament of just faith, right? That you guys have both had through literally any and every season y'all could go through, y'all have gone through at this point. For where you are in relation to where you guys are headed, what at this point are you hoping for your legacy to be with everything that you've cultivated and you're still building going forward?
We want our legacy to be like, we want to say that we've been able to help hundreds of people not just get to where we are, but bypass us. And so like, and that's why we, like she said, she taught for 13 years. So that's why we teach these that's why we do these mentorships, because we want people to come in, learn about the credit game, learn about the funding game, and just take off with their businesses and just become legendary.
And not have so many of like the struggles. Like,
right.
like some struggles you can't avoid, but if it's a struggle that can be, avoided when it comes to the financial piece, why not let us help you? Because like that's the whole point in having like a mentorship. But like, longevity of it, like I said, we love the coaching space. That's great. But also too, we want to make sure that our family, like they understand the importance of credit. Like the younger, like our nieces and nephews and our daughter, that they understand like, you don't have to get it out the mud. You don't have to go out here and hustle. You can, use your credit, leverage it the right way. You can be a business owner, because like for so long we thought we were just meant to be workers. That was it. Like, there was no entrepreneur in sight. So having them realize that you can do this and being able to carry that legacy on, here and there, and not realizing the only thing you can do is go to school, go to college, and work until you're 65. Like, that doesn't have to be the American dream, but for us, that makes us feel good, is realizing that now we've kind of stepped out of that traditional American dream into our own dream now.
Powerful. As we start to close, my last question, if you both were sitting in my seat and sitting across from you was Ty and Kesha 10 years into the future, and they dropped in, and both of you could only ask them one question, and they could only answer back in one sentence, what would you ask them, and what do you think their answer would be?
That's a good question.
So what we ask ourselves. Okay.
And they can only answer back in one sentence. Not, I can't give you a whole soliloquy going in one sentence and then it gone just like that.
Okay. Did you live into your legacy? That would be my thing. Like, because, like, did you do, because, like, we waste, I don't say we waste so much time, but, like, we have a lot of regret in life, right? Of things that we didn't do. So, like, did you live up into that legacy? Like, did you do everything you could to make sure that you are legendary, that you make sure that you're leaving the name for yourself? So that would be my one question.
Man, that's a good question. But I kind of agree with you say, like, did you live your life? Because, like, the graveyards, like, is full of debt. And it's full of debt because you have a lot of people who in past who haven't did what they wanted to do, who haven't accomplished what they wanted to accomplish.
Powerful. Ty, Kesha, I appreciate you guys for coming on. I know we got to get you out of here. Your camera right here. Let the people know where they can find you. But more importantly, what you have going on.
So listen, I'm Kesha Barnett. You can find me on IG, actually on all platforms, at Credit Reboot Queen. So at Credit Reboot Queen on all platforms. We actually have a free masterclass. We have a free 3-day event coming up soon. So listen, make sure you follow us on social media so that we can catch us there.
And I'm Credit is King 750 on all platforms.
There you go. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm Marvin Francois, and this is the Marvin Francois Show. And if you haven't already, what are you doing? Take a second, take a minute, take an hour out of your day right here, right now, to go ahead, hit that like button, show this episode some love, tell a friend to come back and rewatch it again. And as always, my name is Marvin Francois. That's Ty and Kesha Barnett. You guys have been good. We've been great. This has been amazing. Thank you all, and God bless. And until next time, peace.